And now, here's Casey Ingram.
Welcome back to the second half hour. We are with Eileen Vargas running for Martin County Commission, District 1, and we're going to hear a lot about what's going on with the platform. So we had some changes in the race here this week we'll talk about in a second, but also want to remind everybody that Indiantown Marine Center strives to provide their customers with an efficient and user-friendly location for servicing and storing their vessels while still maintaining cleanliness, environmental quality, and safety. We provide dockage, travel lifts, workspace, long-term storage, and other repair and maintenance services, as well as offering convenient hurricane haul-out program. Give the good folks at Indiantown Marine Center a call at 772-597-0800 or visit them online, indiantownmarinecenterfl.com. And next week we are going to have somebody from Indiantown Marine Center in the studio because we're going to be talking about that pesky bridge issue. Even with the new bridge, it's still a big problem for them. So they're going to be in the studio to talk about that, the Bright Line Bridge in Stewart. So in the studio, Eileen Vargas. Again, she's running for County Commission District 1. And as I said, there's been some changes. We had Jim Urillo in the studio earlier this year, but he has withdrawn. However, we had, this is going to surprise you folks, but a write-in candidate join in District 1. This is Commissioner Doug Smith currently holds this district, and I know he's had a writing candidate for, this is the third time or maybe even fourth time, actually, I think, in the race. So when he runs, so it always seems to happen, District 1 writing candidate, so we'll talk a little bit about that. But in her own words, Eileen Vargas, let me take this opportunity to tell you about myself. My husband Robert and I moved back to Jensen Beach over 9 years ago. When Bobby and I are not enjoying the beauty of Martin County with our one-eyed rescue Yorkshire Terrier Layla, we are Wealth Advisors. As one of 6 daughters of a surgeon, father, and nurse mother, I spent my early childhood in Stewart. My family then moved to Hialeah and later Miami. I graduated from Miami Beach Senior High School and the University of Miami with a Bachelor of Arts in Journalism and Broadcast Media. From there, my career took on a global journey as both an educator and business owner, enriching my work with unique international perspective. I served on the Coral Gables Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors and the Greater Miami Chamber of Commerce Events Committee. I spent my first 7 years after graduation as a real estate broker in Miami-Dade and the east and west coast of Florida. As a multi-million-dollar sales award recipient, I gained unique perspective on the transformation of South Florida into a mega city with all the challenges. I also saw the significant damage that results from planning decisions made by leaders without vision, as happened with Broward, Palm Beach, and St. Lucie counties. From there, I owned an import-export business, which I operated for 8 years in Portugal. I saw the opportunity to give something back by harnessing my passion for mentoring and developing young people. I taught high school in Sarasota County with a specialty teaching high school honors English and reading. In addition, I coached English as a second language to foreign students. My leadership, mentorship, and coaching in developmental instruction culminated in my selection as the reading department chair. I then took the opportunity to experience life in China, supporting classroom teachers in all disciplines. Later, I moved to the Kingdom of Bahrain, where I taught International Baccalaureate, Language, and Literature. In addition, I'm a graduate of the Leadership Institute outside of Washington, D.C. Since returning to the Treasure Coast, I've been deeply involved in our community. My volunteer work includes the Treasure Coast Care Net Crisis Pregnancy Center and the 4Kids Foster Care Placement Organization. I'm passionate about regional, environmental, and economic development issues and have been active in advocacy organizations and activities. My unwavering commitment to public service is a cornerstone of my character and my campaign. I'm the published author of Parallels, Surviving the Legacy of Pain, and have spoken to audiences in the United States and internationally about family issues. My diverse interests reflect my curiosity and passion for life, making me a well-rounded candidate. I look forward to meeting you on the campaign trail while continuing to learn from our shared experiences. What an impressive background, Eileen.
Thank you so
and welcome
much.
to the studio.
It is such a pleasure to be with you, Casey, today.
Well, it's my pleasure. It's a rainy day, and I hope you had a good drive in because I know the roads are flooded and
Absolutely.
need our umbrellas.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the issues that we have here in Martin County is the flooding.
We do. Flooding, growth, all these things. So
Yeah,
there's a lot of
exactly.
questions, and our half hour is going to go quickly. So, what are the main issues that you're concerned with in Martin County?
Well, we've been speaking with the voters, my team and I, and some of the issues are overdevelopment, taxes, term limits, and of course the water.
Yes.
Now, you mentioned something at the top of this broadcast about another write-in candidate, and this gives me the opportunity to say that why put a straw man in? this is something that he has acknowledged. That's Mr. Smith. But it's not illegal, but it's unethical. And why else would someone do this? Is it fear? What else would someone cheat on? And I challenge Mr. Smith to a debate on this. Residents are wise to this now, and the voters are not taking kindly. So I did mention a couple of the issues that are out there. Happy to talk about any of those today. The
Yes.
flooding is one of those with the overdevelopment because of all the concrete and less green spaces too.
Yes. Yes. What will you bring to the county commission that's not currently there?
Definitely, I'm the expertise as a business owner. I've been able to understand the heartbeat of the voters of Martin County.
Right.
And these are hardworking folks. Either they're employed by somebody or they own their own businesses. My opponent has never signed the front of a check, has never had sleepless nights knowing whether or not he can make payroll. And on top of that, he sees the taxpayers as the trough, talk about Martin County agriculture, to constantly go back to. It's other people's money. But is this what
100%.
taxpayers want? Their money to be spent recklessly, not well thought out? So he doesn't have the insight or the foresight. There's no planning going on.
Very good. I appreciate that. It is a lot of insight. And, you know, it is one of these races. Commissioner Smith is running. This will be for his 7th term, so 28 years. Will be 28 years if he gets elected this time. What is your feeling on term limits?
On term limits, very happy to say, you know, with term limits, we need fresh, robust, vibrant thoughts. We can't be static in Martin County. The other thing is that if you're in a position for any length of time, you will have those special interests coming to you. And what it does is it maintains integrity and avoids any look of impropriety. I think that 2 terms is enough. There's a saying, some people say they have 24 years experience in this particular case, when in reality they have 1 year experience repeated 24 times.
There you go.
My
That's
opponent has
interesting.
that. So the thing is that you have to have qualified candidates who step into the position, who understand what people are going through, and people do not want their money just spent. And the longer that somebody's in office, the easier it is for them to spend the money of their constituents.
For sure. And speaking of that, do firefighters deserve the 12% raise they received, plus 6% step up every year that they received?
Well, yes, I think that they deserve raises. Now, that's something that I have to look at closer once I'm in the seat. I think that, though, we have to take accounting of doing the math. And what's 12%? Well, how much is it towards paying salaries? What is that percentage of the total budget of firefighters or the sheriff's department? And if it's less than that amount, we have to account for those funds. We're talking about millions of dollars that could be lost very quickly and very easily. But there aren't questions being asked.
Right. No, they're not. They're not. Are the Marty buses necessary in Martin County?
Well, you know, they say that it doesn't cost us anything. It absolutely does. I mean, we have to pay for the drivers. We have to pay for the maintenance. You know, there's always something, there's always a new shiny object. But then what are the repercussions of that? There's no foresight as to, okay, how are we going to take care of that, maintain it within a parameter that's feasible? Because it'd be like running your own home. If you don't have a budget and you don't understand, you take in a certain amount, but if you start to allow yourself to spend so much more, you're going to find yourself into bankruptcy or foreclosure.
Or raise taxes?
Or raise taxes, right, exactly. But we don't have that option to do that.
Right.
We don't.
Where would you cut spending?
Wow. Again, I'm not there sitting in the seat. I'd have to look at it closely. Definitely taxes. I'm not in favor of raising taxes. And we had our taxes raised, and we also had the millage rate. This reckless development. It's chaotic.
Yeah.
And there seems to be no end. And I'm wondering why it's such warp speed. I'd have to look at that. The roadways definitely need attention. I mean, we
Talked about
right through the flooding
We're talking
today
about
to
flooding.
get here.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So you have to review every department and see what is necessary because government is top heavy, not just here at this level, but state and federal government. And we're already, what is it, 36 trillion federal
Yes.
government, and it keeps clicking the clock.
At rapid speed.
We
it
have
does.
looked here in Martin County, those people that we've entrusted to put in the positions to govern successfully, we've put them in a position to be able to watch our dollars closely. This has not been done. And there is no more money to go to the federal government nor the state government. They've already been warned about this. But nobody's listening there.
You talked about kind of the sporadic building that's going on in the county. How would you slow the growth?
I definitely, well, I have to see what's already in the pipeline, what's already approved.
Right.
Because that's something that, it's already done. The deal has been done for whatever reasons, and those
Right.
have to be questioned.
Right.
Nobody is above being questioned, especially when we are paying their salaries. And Martin County is not for sale. I grew up a portion of my young life here in Martin County, right in Old Stewart, and loved it. A lot of woods, played there with my sisters. It was a quiet time, it was a more relaxed town. But we are going to lose that very quickly. You will not recognize Martin County within 3 years, 4 years at the most, if this continues, this mass building. And you asked me a question here. I was in real estate in Miami, and I saw the challenges that came from the frenetic development.
Right.
People are moving north because they don't want that. I saw it happen in Broward, Palm Beach, St. Lucie right now.
Yes.
But Martin County is different. We never wanted that. But there have been a few individuals that feel that they need to respond. They need to be able to be told how they're going to govern our government here. And those are developers that are coming in for their own nickel to be able to spend our money and say, I'm going to build here. We're going to change the zoning. We're going to create a new city out west. That will be suburbs.
Oh, yeah,
Martin
there are
County.
definitely new cities for sure. And I was going to ask you about that. Of course, we have the urban service boundary, and the rural lifestyle amendment has jumped that urban service boundary now for all intents and purposes. So
Constantly redefined, Casey.
It is.
Yeah,
It
and
is.
pushed out.
would have you supported the rural lifestyle comp plan amendment? I know it's already done, but would have you voted for it?
The rural lifestyle, I envisioned Martin County the way that we used to have it. I'm not saying that no growth, but smart growth. You have to look at all of the details, and you also need to find out what the voters want. This is their town.
Right.
What do they want? And all we have heard is, I don't like it, I detest it, I resent what's been happening. When we got our petitions, which we did within 21 days.
You did.
That
You
was
did.
a record. We heard from a lot of different people in different walks of life. Some people had been here many years, others that had been here a shorter period of time. But they noticed, and they said they didn't like it one bit. So, there's this whole thing about clustering now. They want to have little clusters. Okay, and we're going to leave 3/4 of the, initial property will be maintained its natural state. However, what is to stop that developer or another one that purchases to say, hey, we've done this, but now can we go ahead and make this development? And you have the creep then. I've seen this. This is not anything that's unusual. This is traditional. This is typical.
So safe to say you would strongly protect the urban service boundary, and you're not a supporter of the rural lifestyle amendment.
No, I'm not. I'm not.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about the race a little bit more. And folks, when I talked about the write-in candidate at the top of the hour, that means now only Republicans can vote in this primary. It is a closed primary. So you need to make sure that you're registered as a Republican. You can change it back after the primary. But if you want to vote for District 1 Commission, you need to be a registered Republican. That's the only people that can vote for it. So I want to make that very, very clear. The other thing, let's talk a little bit just about the mechanics of your race and actually running it. Doug Smith, he's raised over $140,000, and I looked how much have you raised. I saw through the end of May was about $1,400.
Something like that. Yes, exactly.
Takes money to win. This
It
is a tough
does.
incumbent. This is his 7th term that he's running for.
Correct.
So what are you going to do here with the money aspect? How are you going to run this race?
We are a grassroots movement, and this is the time in our country when grassroots are rising up and saying no more. We have a lot of people that are offering in kind. We have a big movement. The momentum is growing. This is the week that will tell all. It's not always about the money. It's about the person. And when people see that you're sincere and that you really have the best interest and you really love this county, they gravitate towards you. And this is what we've noticed also. So, I say, why would somebody put in a straw candidate? What is my opponent afraid of?
Right. That's a good
is it
question.
fear?
Everybody's been asking that for
Well,
a
exactly.
few years.
But this is the same modus. And I challenge Mr. Smith to a debate. Mr. Smith, I challenge you to a debate.
It would be good, and I would be happy to moderate something like that, to be honest
Fantastic.
with you. So if that were to come to fruition, I think that's really a good idea. And we're going to try and bring in some different candidates here that will have a debate, at least be able to face each other face to face and answer some questions and give voters a really good idea where they stand on different issues. I think face to face is the best way to decipher that.
I do, absolutely. Everything starts at the local level.
It does.
And then it
does.
moves up, state and federal government. And we
Yes.
see this groundswell.
Yes, you do see a groundswell. So how are you going to reach these people? I feel for you, because there's a lot of people that have a lot of energy that come through my studio that are running for office.
Right.
Money's such a big one, even yard signs. What do you, can you self-fund it all, or how are you reaching people?
We're reaching people by talking with them. Again, the petitions was huge. We have people say, hey, I want to help you. Give me 10 signs, 12 signs. I'm telling other people about you. Speaking in front of groups also. Your show is definitely a great vehicle. And that's why I was so enthused to come on today.
Well, I
Casey.
appreciate that. It's a great
Not
way
at
to get to
all.
know the candidates and get to know your
Absolutely.
platform, and we have an idea of what your passion is for running.
Yeah.
You previously ran for office too. I think it was State House in 2020.
It was.
So
it
what was your experience there? What did you take out of that?
What did I take out of that? Well, I definitely had my group that surrounded me. However, there were some influences that stepped in at the last moment, and I was very new, to it. I'm a businesswoman. I've been an educator, as you can see, and I have the experience that I had as my young years in real estate, and I had my group. We did everything on our own. We had nobody to pull us through. But what I learned is that have good management, which I do in this race right now, and also be absolutely certain that I'm able to follow along what is happening. Because what I couldn't see was something that was in the dark.
Right.
And what happened is that it kind of snuck up. The party then peeled back. And that was a big issue. That was a big issue.
Okay.
Yeah. They were supporting me, and then they pulled back.
And then they didn't. So things can change quickly, right?
They can. They can. They can. It's like anything else in life. You have to be able to read the situation clearly.
So you said you're out talking a lot with folks. Water is certainly a big issue. The growth is a big issue. We'll talk about those a little bit more in depth, because I think I agree with you. Right now, growth is probably even spoken about more than the water issues.
Yes,
because
it is.
Since COVID, it just seems to have exploded here in the area, the city and the county. And I agree with you. There's things in the pipeline you can't stop and can't do anything about. But what about future, projects that are coming in? Because now the urban service boundary, we have jumped that urban service boundary with the rural lifestyle amendment. There are basically cities that are being built in the rural lands.
There are 4,000 homes here, 2,000 here, 2,000 there, another 300 here. I mean, it just keeps going on. We have to tell developers Martin County is not open anymore for business. Though that commissioner that's been there for 24 years is now gone, and this is what we have to get out so that they don't come here again in Martin County. There are a few individuals that make a lot of money off of this on the backs of the Martin County voters.
What do you tell folks that are begging for affordable housing?
Affordable housing, that's a tough issue because of the chaotic development. You have the values going up, the prices going up, which again puts people out. They can't step in to buy their first home.
That's right.
And home doesn't have to be, it could be a condo, whatever it may be. I bought my first home at 22 years old in Miami. I didn't have a penny left in my pocket, but I was able to do it. And I know that they have floated nonprofits to start to look at affordable housing down in Hope Sound. I'd have to look closely at that because the math didn't quite square. And understanding real estate and being a businesswoman, I'm dealing with the voters' money. And I have to be certain that those that are going to be taking on debt, a mortgage, a new homeowner, are they going to be able to support that? Are they going to be able to continue with the payments? What happens when the property is sold? I know that was the type of property where the land was not going to be sold, but the home is going to be sold. How attractive is that to the next buyer? See, it always starts at the beginning, but what is the end game on that?
Right.
So I'd have to look much more closely to that and see exactly how they strategize, how they thought that was going to be a win-win for the voters of Martin County. There's some pieces there that
didn't fit or didn't, you had some questions on. So.
A lot of questions on exactly what happens when the property is sold. How is the profit divided?
Right.
You know, those type of things.
Right. There's definitely things to look at and certainly need to be answered. I had Commissioner Jenkins in here, and he did talk about that a little bit. And you're right, the land was a lease, so that never gets sold, but the house does. And it part of the sale went back into the kitty, so to speak, to help with affordable housing.
Right.
And then the owner would take part of it. So I don't know the breakdown, but it was...
But you know, Casey, what happened back in 2007,
idea.
2008?
Oh.
I mean, these are different aspects that we have no control over.
Yes.
I mean, it's the same thing as Martin County deciding they're going to be running businesses. This, you know, you have to have people.
I was going to ask you about that.
I'm certain you were going to ask me
Yes.
about that.
Yes.
I love business, but in the hands of business people who know how to run that business. Okay. Government is bloated. It's too bloated. And for them to decide that they're going to take on a restaurant or two, golf course, a pool with a splash, that's not their business. Because what happens, let me say, well, it's in the black right now, it's fine. But what happens when it's not? That is already built. They have already decided that they are committed to that.
Right.
But that's not something we would go. I would never jump into running a splash park. I don't have that expertise, nor running a restaurant. That's not what my life experience is about. Neither is government.
I agree with that 100%. I think that businesses should be ran by private individuals. And, you know, even if these are running profitably right now, that's not the point of government, is to run as many businesses as you can privately or profitably. That's just not the point of government.
If possible.
It's to support people.
Absolutely.
Right.
Make our life easier.
It's right. It's definitely to support us. Amy Pritchett, I appreciate you tuning in as you always do. She's one of our fabulous Martin County School Board members, and she said it isn't always about the money, and you made a strong presence last night, because I think last night there was a presentation with the Republican Club.
There was.
Down in Port Salerno.
Absolutely. It was a packed house. Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and they were very gracious. I'm very appreciative of my audience.
That's
Everywhere.
So let's talk about the Bright Line station. That's another thing that I bring up all the time
Okay.
because I had a lot to say about the train over the years.
Hmm.
And the county had a settlement agreement with Brightline back in 2018. Part of that was that they agreed they would pay for half of the station if Brightline built their station here in Martin County, and they have. So now somehow they got the city on this half cost of the Brightline station as well. So it's going to be in the tune of about $45 million to taxpayers.
That is correct. That is
So
absolutely correct.
Is this
Well,
something you would have supported as well?
I was originally opposed to that. You know, I'm going to tell you why. Here's another example. Trains have never been profitable
No, they have not.
in the United States, Europe, and I lived in Europe.
Yes.
I loved them when I needed them, but I wasn't paying except the fare, and
Right.
that was it. Growing up in Miami, as part of the challenges I referred to before,
Right.
the damages because leaders without vision
Right.
or insight, which we have here in Martin County, we called it the white elephant. That was the Metro Rail, and
Okay.
that was the train that went to nowhere. I mean, it could take you to the airport
Right.
or the seaport, and that's it. But if I lived way out in Kendall, it wasn't available. I still needed my automobile. Now, I know that a lot of people have said, well, you know, we're going to have some bonds, some tax municipal bonds. Why are we doing this? We're borrowing against our future.
We are. We're adding to that $36 trillion debt that you brought up at the beginning of the hour. And, you know, even if they're grant money, it's still tax money. It's still our tax dollars. So.
But that purse will close. That
Yes.
purse will close, and then we are on the hook for this. I don't see a business plan for this. So, okay, this is the guesstimate for the train station, but what is the real number? What is
right.
the real number? Oh, and then after it's built, we have to maintain it too. And that
right.
costs money. It's like you put in the pool, and then you have to maintain the pool.
Right.
You've already had the big outlay of that. In this particular case, they'd be floating
Yes.
bonds, which doesn't mean it's paid for. So it's borrowed money.
Right.
I mean, I understand all of that. But, you know, they say, well, they're going to bring in tourism here. Well, tourism for maybe a couple of restaurants, and they're going to benefit. But the greater Martin County residents, how is that benefiting us?
Agree with you. It really isn't. So again, we've been speaking with Eileen Vargas. Our half hour goes so quickly.
It does.
But she's running for County Commission District 1, which is currently held by Commissioner Doug Smith. And Eileen, I don't have your website written down.
I will tell you. It's EileenVargas.com.
Easy enough, folks. EileenVargas.com. Obviously, you can use all the grassroots help you can get. That's how you're running
Can.
this campaign.
Yes.
So we appreciate you coming in, and hopefully we'll have you back here again a little bit later, and we'll reach out to Commissioner Smith and